Hey goalies, welcome back to the DIY Goalie podcast. We have got Nelson Rego with us today, who is a blind hockey goalie with the Edmonton SeeHawks. How are we doing today, Nelson?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming on. So, why don't we start off? Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of, how you got started in hockey and blind hockey, and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah. Well, I as a kid, I always used to play street hockey, so I was a huge fan of hockey. But I never got into ice hockey as a kid growing up, so I ended up getting into other sports. But as I grown up, and uh, this would be now 19 years, maybe almost 20 years ago, I ended up losing my eyesight, and that time I hadn't gotten involved in hockey yet. So I would say it would be now 3 years ago. I just heard about the sport of blind hockey, and I had no idea what it was going to be like. Probably like most other people, you're thinking that people are just running into each other all the time, and
Yeah.
I had no idea what the puck looked like. So I ended up seeing like a couple of YouTube videos, and then it sounded more interesting to me, and so I checked out the local team out here. I was invited to one of their practices, and uh, of course, we're using other goalies' gear when you're first starting out. So I tried that out, and by the time I was done, my feet were bleeding on the way to the parking lot, and I was in so much pain. I just was wearing my jeans and regular street clothes, and I swore I wasn't going to come back. And I was thinking that that childhood dream I had of playing ice hockey kind of uh, got back to me, and I thought like I'm gonna give it one more try, and I got some bigger gear, and then I ended up sticking with it. So it's yeah, past 3 years I learned how to skate in my backyard with my daughter when everything was shut down. I flooded my backyard, and just like any other goalie who's starting to learn, you kind of you don't get all the training that you should get as into skating, but because of my size, I was automatically perfect to be a goalie. So yeah, so local team just joined them, the Edmonton SeeHawks, and been playing with them, and also been playing a lot of shinny games and league games as well. Because I also play in Cited games as well, so I enjoy those. They don't make any changes to the puck in the Cited games. I just sort of do my best I can and just try to be in the right spot. But with blind hockey, we have that puck which is rattles, and it's a big puck, like 5.5 inches wide, almost 2 inches tall, and it's got all these metal ball bearings in it, and it's a metal hollow puck, so it's a big loud clanking sort of puck that you get to hear around the ice, and yeah, I've been enjoying it ever since.
Yeah, it's basically like playing with a cowbell out there. It gets pretty loud when it's shooting around. And yeah, no, that's funny about the gear because for those of you who don't know, Nelson's quite a big dude. So, because how tall are you?
I haven't checked in a while because I lost my eyesight, but about six
Well,
four,
yeah,
6'5", and about
yeah,
almost 300 pounds. So I'm on
yeah.
the bigger side.
I can imagine. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine it was tough to find some gear starting out.
Oh, I didn't realize
So,
like how hard it was, like to find skates and to find gear. Is like
yeah,
it was quite hard to find gear. So I ended up getting my first chesty modified. So I had a local goalie repair shop. I, I think it's well, I can't remember the name. Hockey Shop of Horrors.
hockey shop owners.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so Jonathan Hunter, his name is. So he modified my first gear. He put some motorcycle dirt bike armor on top of my goalie gear, because that puck is quite painful when it gets through the
yeah,
sort of the thinner chesties. And I used that for a
yeah,
while, and then eventually I upgraded to some professional level gear. So I've been using that ever since, and yeah, I just been loving it, and kind of caught that gear bug. So I got a bunch of gear, some helmets, and sort of still collecting like every other goalie, it seems like. But
yeah.
yeah, I'm always looking to upgrade my gear. But yeah, it's been awesome playing these last few years.
I'm sure the wife loves the gear collection. They all do. So,
Well, as long as I keep it clean and it doesn't smell, because that's the one thing that kind of
uh,
got her turned off of hockey. She refuses to
yeah,
get
there
into the
you go.
dressing room. so so
Yeah, fair enough.
yeah, I keep my gear clean. I keep it air dried as soon as I get home. It's in front of the fans. So yeah,
Nice.
so we got that. That is okay as long as it doesn't smell.
Yeah, there you go. So you had mentioned the puck being different. So it is a sheet metal puck that's full of the metal ball bearings to kind of make noise while it moves. What other kind of differences are there between kind of the blind hockey rules and sighted hockey?
Well, I mean, for on ice, the when you're playing competitive games, the net itself is a foot shorter. So every other dimensions are the same, but it's 12 inches shorter. So it's three feet tall and 6 feet wide. Um, so we just recently got our nets for the first time. We've been around since the 1970s, and Edmonton Seahawks has never had blind hockey nets. So, thanks to the Canadian Blind Hockey, they were able to supply us uh, two brand new nets at our local rink at the downtown arena by the Rogers Place, where the Oilers play their practice. And yeah, so that's the other modification as far as equipment wise. As far as rules, there is a rule where there's some electronic whistle that's used. I think it's called the Fox 40 electronic whistle. That's the official whistle. And one of the chirp sounds, I think it's the second chirp sound. There's three chirps in that whistle. That is for the pass rule, similar to what they use in ringette. So as the attacking players cross the blue line, you have to make one clean pass without any sort of deflection or any sort of interference from the defense. And then as soon as that pass is complete, then the referee will press the electronic whistles to let everyone know, who's especially the goalies, that there's going to be a shot coming pretty soon, and that just
Yeah.
makes it more fair for the goalies and the lower vision players who are playing on the ice. So that's
Yeah.
the main modification as far as the rules. As far as the puck, like when the puck is in the blue paint, when it's in the crease, if the puck goes dead, if it stops, um, they call that like covering up, as if the goalie was covering it up, because as the puck doesn't move on the ice, it actually doesn't make any sound. So that's the other thing with that puck is it makes sound, it makes a lot of sound, but only when it's moving around. So when it's in the
Yeah.
air, it doesn't make too much noise, and when it's standing still, it makes no noise at all. Yeah, those are pretty much the main modifications as far as the rules are concerned. A competitive level, they have a 14-point system where they have the fully blind players like myself, a B1, so that's considered 1 point, and then the players that have 5% vision or less, B2, and that'd be 2 points, and then the players that have 10% vision or less, they call them a B3. So you add that up to 14 points on the ice. For example, your three forwards could be B3s, so that give you 9 points. Your defense could be uh, B2s, and that will give you 4 points. And then your goalie is a B1, which would total 14 points on the ice. And the way they kind of figured out is that the B3 players have a black helmet, the B2 players have a white helmet, and any player that's playing on the ice would have a red helmet. And then, of course, the goalies, they could have whatever color helmets they want, as long as they stay at net. And then competitive level, all goalies are required to wear a blindfold, which is ironic considering we can't see. But that's part of the rules that they have for competitive level hockey, for blind hockey.
So, is there ever a case where there is a B2 or a B3 um, athlete that plays goal with that blindfold, and then would they still be considered a B1 then because of the blindfold?
They allow it in rec level, um, but they're if they go by the Paralympic rules, according to Canadian Blind Hockey, that goalie would have to be a B1. if they're going to be
Okay.
playing on, like, for example, if they're going to play in the future, they're not playing it now, but if blind hockey ever gets into the Paralympics, then the goalie at this point would have to be a B1. Just because it wouldn't take much for the blindfold to sort of slip down and give a player a little bit of an advantage.
Yeah, conveniently.
Yeah, conveniently. Yeah, so we kind of sometimes see that on the ice where the goalie who's got the blindfold, and then when they skate off the ice, they go straight for the bench, and everyone's like wondering, like, how do you figure out which bench it was, exactly where the door was,
Yeah.
without going against the boards? So, uh, yeah, so that's the highest level of hockey. So, but anything below that, like they have tournaments throughout the country. They would just have a blindfold for those goalies in those tournaments. So it's not a big issue since it's not at its Olympic level yet.
Okay. So, what's it like then for you playing in a sighted game? Because I know that was kind of the first I had heard of you, anyways. When I know you kind of made some headlines around here as a blind goalie playing in one of the sighted, men's league divisions. So, um, how is it that you're able to kind of navigate your way around that when the puck's not really making much noise for you?
Well, I mean, when I lost my eyesight, and this isn't so much that my other senses changed, it's that especially my hearing, my focus on my hearing uh, was emphasized more because I'm relying more on my other senses. So the other senses I had or I have, they're still there. I was always using them. It's just that people take for granted their eyesight. So most people rely on their eyesight to sort of figure out their environment. So, but you can actually do it with your hearing, which in my case, I utilize the hearing and. And there's this other vision that blind people seem to have that I have not yet been able to get a proper explanation for. Where even though I don't see anything, and I could do it with my eyes closed, my eyes open, I cover it with my hands, I see some type of imaging, and I don't know how that's done. Uh, it's nothing detailed, but it there's a presence of something there, an obstacle there. Um, it doesn't work as well in a fast-paced hockey game. But if someone was walking past me, or if I was, someone was waving their hand in front of me, uh, my brain sees something there, even though there's no visual interaction with what's happening. So uh, yeah, so there's a disconnect with the visual cortex through my eyes, but it seems like my brain is sort of rewired, and it seems to see something there. Um, and I've tried watching like documentaries on animals that have no sight. They use their other senses, like deep water creatures, and they use other senses to sort of navigate. And of course, bats and other things like that, moles, and so there are other senses people can use to navigate, but not everyone is capable of doing it. So it's something that I've sort of kind of taught myself to help me sort of navigate, and I use that. In part during hockey games. And of course, something called echolocation. I use that a lot, where sounds are bouncing off obstacles. I use that to help me sort of figure out my environment. And of course, playing hockey, there's always a lot of noise on the ice. So you got the players crashing each other, you got the sticks, you got the skates, you got the puck. So I'm using all that sort of noise and feedback. And even those players that try to go stealth mode, they think they can try to get a goal on me, I can still hear you skating.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, for sure.
but yeah, I use those senses, and that's what allows me to sort of enjoy the game more, and it also helps me sort of focus on the puck, because that's what goalies need to focus on, is square off to the puck
Yeah,
rather than the player. So I'm always focusing on the puck, and I'm not thinking about if I'm going to get deked out, or if I'm looking at the eyes of the player or their hips of the player. I'm just focused on that puck. So that
yeah.
sort of
You don't
helps
have to
me.
worry about the deception.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's because how Nelson and I ended up getting
Did I lose you there?
acquainted. He had actually seen me posting on
Oh,
Facebook about some
Nathan?
goalie sessions and reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'd like to attend a session." And I said, "Yeah, sure, come on out." And he said, "Oh, have you ever worked with a blind hockey goalie before?" And I was like, "Nope." That was, a little bit of a, a curveball I wasn't expecting in my goalie coaching career. But since we've been working together, that's kind of the focus that it's been. So with the Cited goalies, the focus is on finding the puck, tracking it, seeing it and all that. But that focus shift towards more of the auditory sense and kind of using the hearing to find the positioning seems to kind of be the best approach. And um, I mean, you would know better than I because I'm kind of on the outside still learning a lot about this. But do you think that's kind of the approach that a lot of the higher end blind hockey goalies are taking?
The with the higher level goalies, they're pretty much focusing on positions. So if you watch a blind hockey game, you'll see the blind goalies will play pretty much on the goal line. They'll have their back, sometimes touching the crossbar, and you'll find them tapping off onto the posts, and that kind of helps them get centered on the net. Because once you start kind of drifting away from your goal, and I've tried to experiment with this, and it's hard to really get back to the net, since there's no auditory sound on the net, in competition level. We do locally here. We just recently started putting little speakers on top of the net so we can get back to our net. Um, but it's played a little bit differently for blind hockey, just because of the way, because you have no real way of getting back to your net if you sort of skate away,
Yeah,
even when the net goes off the pegs. Most goalies won't know that the net is jumped
yeah,
off the pegs unless you kind of hit the post and you feel that the net sort of moving. So yeah, you're playing a little bit differently in blind hockey. And then, of course, if the puck does hit you, I've noticed other goalies, like the higher level goalies, they'll drop face first on top of the puck to sort of cover the puck. Uh, and that's the main thing I've noticed with many of the goal. And of course, most of them will go butterfly right away, just because the net is so much lower, that the
yeah.
top part of the net is taken away from the players shooting up in the corners. That allows the goalie to sort of play low and just kind of sort of focus on their position as far as being in the center of the net.
So when it comes to what's currently out there for blind hockey, then what is there for opportunities like in terms of, locally, nationally, internationally? I know like it kind of varies, but what's kind of out there now and what's sort of being built towards?
Well, there's a lot of effort being made to make it more organized, more competitive. It's not quite there from my perspective. The major cities throughout Canada and especially the U.S. The U.S. has sort of exploded because of their hockey programs, blind hockey programs, started back in 2018, and they already have more teams than Canada does. And the great thing with the U.S. teams is that they're involved with U.S. Hockey, and they're some of them. The teams are also involved with directly with the NHL teams, so
Yeah,
they're doing it properly down here or down there. Up here in Canada is sort of we're kind of left to our own devices, which is unfortunate. Some groups partner up with other blind sports organizations, and then some of them are standalone nonprofits. But I wish it was a little bit more organized as far as locally. Um, like other sports, there's associations in each city. So, but Edmonton has been pretty good, just because we've had direct support from the CNIB. Recently, we had support from Hockey Alberta, and we've also had support from Canadian Blind Hockey. So that's been good there. Um, so hopefully they can get a little bit more organized and sort of develop the teams in the cities, because I don't think there's a team in Winnipeg yet, and Saskatchewan. There still needs to be some teams there. So, uh, yeah, I think there could be a lot more teams in Canada as far as locally. Um, just kind of make the sport grow as far as grassroots level. And then there's tournaments throughout the year. They'll have Western regional tournaments. They'll have Eastern regional tournaments, and that's run by Canadian Blind Hockey. And then once a year, they'll have sort of the Stanley Cup of blind ice hockey in Toronto, in the old Toronto Garden Stadium, or the arena. So they do that in March. At the end of March, they'll have like a weekend tournament. So that's pretty fun. And then, of course, there's the international game that they've been running for the past, I think, 5 years, Canada versus US international series. So we're hoping to see that get a little bit more competitive. Canada's a little bit more ahead, evolved than the US, but I could see the US quickly catching up in the next couple of years as they develop their players and their coaching system, because they're doing all the right things foundationally in the US. So Canada's going to get a run for their money, I think, in the next couple of years. Recently, they just had a 3 tournament game, and it was they weren't very close games, but it was good to see the U.S. players sort of develop. But Canada's is got some amazing talent on their team. So it's if you watch some of the recent games, you'll see like how amazing some of the players can be on the Canadian team, because they're you couldn't even tell that they're visually impaired, but just by watching them on the ice.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's good. I think that's kind of the way it's going with Cited hockey too, and the way the states is developing their players and their program. I think Canada could be in for a bit of a rough spell here at the international level in a few years, but we'll see. But no, that's good to see that there's some growth internationally too. And I know you had mentioned that there's a few kind of minor blips outside of North America too, in terms of a couple entities out in Europe. Is that something that you've seen kind of starting to grow as well?
Yeah, especially Finland. Finland is sort of exploded last couple of years, so we're going to see a lot of talent coming out of Finland pretty soon. They do come over to the annual event that Toronto has in March, so we get to see a glimpse of some really great players, goalies. I think there was about 10 or 11 of them that came over last time out. Um, so it's very impressive to see those players come out. UK just started a program recently, so they're sort of developing their program. But they don't have the numbers yet that Finland does. I know there was interest from Russia a few years back. I think that will probably restart up again, maybe the next couple of years, once they get sorted out there. And I think there's been some other cities as well throughout Europe. And there's even been Asian cities. I'm not sure if you follow any of the Asian hockey, but there's actually like a hockey team in the Philippines and the hockey team in Vietnam, and
Yeah,
a lot of these Asian countries. I can definitely see them get involved eventually, just because they have such a huge population to choose from for
yeah,
blind players. Uh, but I can see it definitely growing. Just like how the U.S. is growing for the NHL. Uh, Maybe eventually they'll get into other countries once the sport starts to grow. Once they sort of peak out in the U.S., because there's so many more cities that the NHL can get into. I think recently, I think Salt Lake City is going to have a team. So, and
yeah,
there's going to be an expansion pretty soon of other cities. So, obviously, blind hockey is sort of going to follow suit with those cities in the NHL, and hopefully the Canadian teams sort of get more involved. The NHL teams get involved locally with the blindness community, and sort of because most people aren't even aware of what blind hockey is in Canada. So there's a lot of there's a lot of things that we have to do in the background to sort of let people know that first of all, blind hockey exists, and get it to a level where you can play, a Four Nations, Six Nations Cup, and then eventually the into the Paralympics. So that's the ultimate goal. I think hockey is eventually getting into the Olympics. Even though the sport's been around since early 1970s. I think it started with the Toronto Ice Owls and then went from there with the Montreal team. Um, there's still a long ways to go, sort of put on a level where you can get it to the Olympics. So, but I could see them being there in the next maybe 8, 10 years. Um, I think recently there was a new league that just started up. I think it was last year, the end of last year, the Blind Hockey League. Um, they're sort of just getting started, and I haven't seen anything directly from their website. I was just looking on the website the other day, see what's going on. So they're sort of developing, the rules and regulations, and sort of starting from scratch, sort of thing. So once I think that sort of takes off, I think that'd be pretty cool, and you'll see more higher end players, because every year like the players are getting better, the game is getting better, and it's a very exciting sport to watch, and for me it's even more exciting to play.
Yeah, for sure. No, and it's always one of those things you got to start somewhere, I guess. But no, it's good to see that it's finally getting some traction. And um, I do know that Canadian blind hockey there was, one of their big mantras is to make a push towards making blind hockey a Paralympic sport. So hopefully that's something we can see kind of in the near future here, because yeah, no, like the little bit that I've been out with you guys, it's a great group of people, and an interesting and kind of fun sport to watch. And it really makes people kind of stop and think, because you're like, blind hockey, how does that work? And
Yeah,
it's always good to kind of get that conversation going and just know that there's something out there for pretty much everybody, right? So that's good to hear. um so I know you're a big kind of ambassador. You're one of the main volunteers now when it comes to the Seahawks organization. And just a little bit more about the Seahawks. They're kind of the blind hockey program that is in the Edmonton area. And I know you guys have started now branching out to more youth stuff, as well as just the adults. So, what was kind of the motivation behind that, and how did you kind of fall into that, and what's sort of your role that you're taking nowadays with that?
yeah. When I first started with the team, they asked me to be captain of the team, so which was a bit of a red flag for me because I was just learning how to skate.
Just
So
just right in the fire.
yeah, it's like, hey, you want to be captain? I was like, I don't know
Yeah.
about this. So I went around to everyone. I was like, could you do this job? So because there was a lot more other people that have been playing hockey for a lot longer, and but I guess they were looking for more of like a fresh outlook on things. Because I tend to be very sort of energetic and engaging with people. So, and I bring a lot of energy to the sport. So, a lot of the guys have been playing for 7, 8+ years. So they're kind of tired of running things. So they just want to just
Yeah.
throw someone into the fire, just like how you said, and just let him
Fresh
run.
meat.
Yeah, let him and get grind out for a bit. So I did that for a bit, and then I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed the challenge, and even though my background was more about football, because that was a sport I sort of got involved in. There's a lot of similarities between the two sports, so um, I used that passion I had for football, and I just extended that to hockey. And yeah, I just reached out to the hockey community, and I explained to people after they're asking me like, what's blind hockey, and once we get all past that, and you know uh, they're excited to sort of help out somehow. So we've had unbelievable volunteers join it, us like yourself, who's been out a few times, and you've been actually pretty instrumental in helping me improve my game. Um, so and that's been great, and yeah, it's just been an awesome experience. And starting the kids program was sort of a personal thing for me, because I'd wish I'd had that opportunity as a child to play ice hockey, and I couldn't understand why there was no junior program for blind players in Edmonton. um I realized afterwards the obstacles I had to face to make it happen. But we ended up making it happen, and it's now almost 2 years we've had a junior Seahawks program, um, which has been awesome. Because I mean, the team has been around, I think, 1979, and they've never had a youth program, and I couldn't understand why they never did. So, and seeing the kids, the parents, it makes it all worth it. All the obstacles that we had to overcome to make it happen, because the kids weren't getting an opportunity to play ice hockey anywhere else. So
Yeah.
uh, that was one thing that I knew I had to make it happen here in Edmonton, and I'm hoping other cities will do the same, because I don't see a whole lot of youth programs in some of the other cities. Um, so hopefully those cities will sort of look at what we've done and what other teams have done who have had a youth program, and sort of make it grow. Because the only way you can actually grow blind hockey is to start, with a youth program. So,
Yeah.
and once we got those kids in a hockey, and we've seen how they develop, and in the next couple of years they'll be taking over my job, and they'll be running the team. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's been amazing seeing that, and obviously the parents have been a great help to the team, because they've also been volunteering. So it's an automatic volunteer when you get a kid.
Yeah. There
So
you go.
yeah, the parents have been awesome as well.
Yeah, I think every time I've been out, it's, been a couple extra, kids out every time. So it's good to see that, you're able to see that traction to actually help, grow the program. So outside of the junior program, what else is it that like the Seahawks program has to offer, and maybe what other blind hockey programs kind of have to offer? Like, what's the kind of 100-foot outlook of what you guys do when you're out on the ice, or when you're not on the ice, and kind of what the program looks like?
Yeah, so for the adult program, since there are only, if you go around North America, there's only one team, one blind hockey team per city, for an adult program. So there's not a lot of choice to play games against each other, at least not yet, until we see how this blind hockey league sort of plays itself out. But what I've been focusing on is exhibition games with Cited teams. Recently, we just had an exhibition game with the Edmonton Police Services. So, and that was the first time we've done that, and that was really fun. We did that as a a charity game to support one of their fallen officers, who was actually happened to be one of our volunteers. So that was a whole lot of fun, with the kids sort of getting to interact with the police, because they would otherwise not interact with them. So
Yeah.
and then to see the officers sort of play with the adults and play with the kids, and just make it sort of a fun, sort of competitive, a little bit competitive game, because we have some of the best players in the country, some of them actually in the world, on our team. So we got a wide variety of skill level, from first time skaters to some of the fastest skaters on ice, when you watch them play internationally against the U.S. So we have to sort of accommodate all levels of skill level. So that could be a bit of a tricky to do, but exhibition games have been really fun to do. We've had exhibition games with the Edmonton Rage of the CCRHL. Um, I was playing with the Revolution team for the CCRHL, and we're looking to have an exhibition game coming up here in May with them. So that's been our local focus, as far as uh, getting a sort of a competitive level of playing ice hockey um, locally, without having to travel. To, for example, the last Canada versus US, that was in St. Louis. So we can play like a pretty good level of hockey here locally. We just need to sort of find teams to play against. So once we get past that first obstacle of like, yes, there's blind hockey, we exist, and if you don't mind playing with this puck, the game is pretty much otherwise the same. So And the hockey community has been very, very, very kind to our team. So yeah, ever since we started reaching out to the hockey community, we realized like how accommodating they could be for us, and how people are just so open to volunteering and sort of getting involved with our sport. So I think once we get more organized locally, we might eventually be able to join a league. I think years back, the Seahawks were in a league for a short period of time with a non-contact league. So we'd be open to joining a league if that's available to us. But that's sort of down the road, and that's sort of like just recreationally. But it's still sort of higher level hockey because once you get a person's sight, and against a blind person, it could be quite a challenge to play against a sighted person. Even though they might not
Yeah,
be the fastest skater, they had advantage of sight, which makes it a
yeah,
little bit tricky for us. We also do mix up the players as well in some games. So we'll have some sighted players on our team, and then we have some blind players on the other team. So at the end of the day, it's all about having fun and enjoying the game. That's how we see it, and those who wish to take it to a higher level, there's that ability as well to play for Canada.
yeah. No, for sure. So if somebody's looking to, I guess, like if they're listening to this and they, would like to kind of start a program in their area, maybe there's nothing around them and they kind of want to start getting involved. Do you have any advice, I guess, as to, how they could start off doing that, or some of the stuff to maybe start looking at, or resources to look at, or
Yeah.
basically where to start? Because I'm sure taking on starting a program like this from scratch would be quite the undertaking.
If you have a local CNIB in your area, because that's who helped us start our youth program. If you have one of those locations in your city, that could help a lot because that'll give you a lot of access to blind individuals who are interested in skating. I think that's an excellent place to start. For a youth program, there's you can reach out to the school system, the Catholic school system, the public school system. Let them know that you're looking to start a blind hockey program, and you can get a youth program sort of off the ground if you can get enough kids involved in your city. Um, and even if you live close enough, like for example, in Alberta, we have a team in. There's a Calgary blind team. There's a Red Deer blind team, and of course, we have uh, the Edmonton Seahawks here. So if you can get out to one of those cities and sort of engage in one of our teams, sort of learn to see what we're doing and what could be improved on, and maybe possibly do something locally in your community. I'm sure there could be a hockey team in Lethbridge and maybe a few other teams in the smaller communities. You just need the numbers. That's the main thing, is getting enough people out on a regular basis, and then having players to play against. So if you make it a, sort of a family thing, uh, I think that would help out quite a bit because siblings have been quite helpful. I know with my daughter, she's been really helpful helping out with the our youth program. So, as she's learned to skate, she's actually learned to have leadership skills and sort of helping the blind kids on our youth programs to improve their skating ability and sort of navigating them around the ice. Um, but yeah, I would say start with the CNIB first, and then any sort of blindness organization, and then see how many players you can recruit from there. And I always say, everyone's, we're a very inclusive team. So regardless of your eyesight is, if you're from 2020 to completely blind, we don't turn people away. So, and we've had some amazing volunteers help out with our program. So you're not just looking for just blind players. You need sighted players as well to sort of help out with the overall program.
Yeah, for sure. And um, I find too with the hockey community, as long as people aren't too busy, they're usually willing to help out at least every now and then, or whatever, to try and come out if you need a coach every now and then as a volunteer or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, just that networking, I guess, goes a long way when it comes to how small the hockey community is. So that's probably a good place to start, is just start talking to people. So how is it that people can support blind hockey, and also, I guess, more specifically, you guys in your program with the Seahawks?
Well, for us, the number one thing, as with other hockey teams, it's ice time. We pay premium for ice time. Um, so we've been having some great support recently with, like I said, like I mentioned earlier, with the CNIB, Hockey Alberta, and Canadian Blind Hockey. They've been a great resource in helping us with ice time and equipment and even jerseys as well. Um, so that they've been a big help. But if someone wants to get started, they want to sort of uh, find out locally here in Edmonton, learn about our program. We do have a website where we have a donation page. But I always tell people, we love to have like hands-on sort of support. So if anyone has the time to actually support our team, we're always asking them like, hey, come out and volunteer, come out for a skate, help out with our kids program, because we're always looking for volunteers to help out somewhere. Um, even with like small things as far as in the dressing room, as far as like equipment, because I myself, I'm always losing my equipment every time,
Yeah.
because I'm taking that gear off, I'm throwing it on the bench, and then I'm kind of like spending the next 5 minutes looking for my gear. uh, so any level of support, we're always looking for volunteers. But if anyone wants to learn more about our program, they can come to our website, to seahawks.ca, and that's seehawks.ca. Um, Check us out there, and anyone that wants to register, they can register through the website there. We had a great web designer that got our website up and running. uh,
Yeah.
and it made it very accessible.
Amateur hour.
Oh no, he did a great job. He made it very accessible. I mean, you didn't even realize like it was accessible off the bat, with because I use a screen reader to sort of navigate websites.
Yeah.
So he was awesome. So if anyone is looking for a web designer, I can point you to the right guy. Um,
Yeah.
but
I'm
yeah,
a
so
goalie coach first and a web designer third or fourth. So,
yeah, no, they
but
they, uh, they definitely can check out the website. We're also on Facebook as well. We post a lot of our videos on Facebook. So if you want to see our faces and check out our photos and sort of follow our progress, you can find us on Facebook, and that's Edmonton Seahawks Blind Hockey. You can see our page. You can follow our group. So my wife does a lot of that. She posts a lot of the videos and pictures. So she's been a huge support as well for the team. She's been instrumental in sort of helping uh, me sort of sort of run the team, because I went from being captain to actually running multiple programs. So it's
yeah,
been
being the manager, the
yeah,
president.
yeah. So
Yeah.
a bunch of hats I got to wear, but it's definitely worth it, because I see how important it is for blind sports to be in our city, and being blind for the past 20 years. I understand the importance of sport and recreation. It is just to keep in physical shape, and just to keep the mind clear. And there's so many sports that we can do. And me getting involved in hockey was sort of a no brainer, because I've always had that passion to play hockey, and because hockey is so huge in Canada, that it's pretty easy to get gear, and get something that's affordable, if you don't mind not looking at brand new stuff. There's so much equipment out there to choose from, so you just gotta kind of go to the right place. And a big help locally has been for us has been Sports Central. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but
Yeah.
they're a charity that helps get equipment to kids that are underprivileged uh, to multiple sports, including hockey. So they've been a great resource for us in helping us out, get equipment to some of our kids that have joined our program. So we try to make it that there's no obstacle, because there's enough that kids and adults are dealing with their vision loss and other possible secondary disabilities, that we try to make the hockey part as fun as possible. So um, yeah, I just tell people just to check out our website, and you can get in contact with us through email as well. That's edmontonseahawks.ca. Sorry, Edmonton Seahawks at gmail.com. And that's EDMONTON at gmail.com. And yeah, we love to hear from you, and any support you're able to give to our team or our programs. We'd love to hear from you. And if you want to play against us, we also love that as well, because we have a lot of fun in our exhibition game. So definitely give us a shout.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll put all of that in the show notes too. So you guys, if you're listening in your car or whatever, you can always go back and see that. But even if you just search anywhere pretty much for Edmonton Seahawks and just make sure it's SeeHawks, you'll
Yeah,
be able to find them.
because or else you'll be joining a
Yeah.
football team.
Yeah.
There's an Edmonton
Yeah.
Seahawks football team with
Yeah.
the regular spelling. So uh,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Well, do you have one last tip or piece of advice for any of the goalies listening out there?
Oh, I just tell people keep hydrated, because that's the main thing for me. Is when I get on the ice. I don't know if you see me with my water bottles, Nathan.
Uh,
I get like two-liter water bottles, and I
uh,
get those hydration packs from Costco,
yeah,
and that keeps me playing the game, because I run hot. So when I take off my
uh,
mask, my head, it looks like a chimney. So
yeah. Well, all that beefed up gear probably doesn't help either.
no.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Nelson. It was a pleasure having you on, and I'm hoping that we can, start getting the word out there about blind hockey as an opportunity for a lot of people out there to get themselves on the ice and start doing something they love. So I really appreciate having you on, and thanks for taking the time.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.